Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
Welcome home. You know, as Cher was praying, and anyone who's been in our teaching for long enough, oneness is the key, right? And I've heard it a million times, and yet when she was praying, I just kept hearing one. And it filled me today. I just needed to hear it. There's only one. And even as you're singing Welcome Home, I'm thinking we have so many homes that when we realize the world is one, there's not like one place where we have home. We start to see and feel that home energy no matter where we are in the world, or maybe not every place, but we start to feel more connected. And so one of the things I've been thinking about is how much do we look at, or not we, I'm going to ask you, how much do you look at spiritual community as being a place of home? How much do you look at this spiritual community as home, whether you're online or in person? I grew up, as many of you know, I went to church every Sunday. It was a Sunday school until 6th grade. And then once I got into middle school, no more church. I was the youngest, and my brothers had already stopped going. And so once my mom just wanted us to be introduced to it, but then we decided, and so I stopped going to church on the Sundays. And even then in Sunday school, I wasn't actually in church. And so I did like some events later on as I got older, but church I did not attend. So actually the first time where I started attending a church regularly, like actually going to a Sunday service, was New Thought. I was 25 at the time, and I was the only one in my 20s in that community. So it wasn't a place where I found friends. It was a place that I would go to for my own education and inspiration, or I'd take a class. But they weren't the people I hung out with. My life was still the place where I found my friends and my community. And then as I continued on, even at Agape, I got involved, but I still had a lot of friendships and things happening outside of the Agape, by the way, is a community like this, but with thousands of people. So it was an already established community, and everyone had all these relationships already. It was it's in LA, and can you imagine thousands of creative people all in one space? It's a lot of energy all the time, 7 days a week. So I would often find friends in smaller groups outside the church. It wasn't until I started working there that my friendships really started anchoring there. And I recognized, for me, friendships were very connected with where I worked. And so now I was working there, so that was where my friendships, and that was really the first time where I started developing friendships in a spiritual community. Again, I didn't grow up with that model growing up, so I never saw other people making friends, and all those friendships were already pre-existent before I got there when I went to a church, so I never thought about how that unfolded. And I was still much younger than everyone. I started much earlier than a lot of people, so most of my friends were 20 years older than me too, which is also why I had friends outside. And then I became a minister. Often, the first church, I was younger than pretty much everyone in the community, and they already had established relationships. So that kept happening as I was moving through different ministries. And then we started the Lighthouse. And there's two events that happened that just sort of surprised me. I taught this foundations class where this particular class got really close. And I remember they came in one Sunday and they were talking about this dinner party. And I'm like, you guys hung out? You mean you didn't know each other at all, and then you came here, and now you're hanging out? Like, that was a new idea to me, like, wow. And then other people, I see like when we go camping, and all these relationships people are meeting here, never met each other. They come here and start hanging out and becoming friends. These lifelong friendships start to develop. I'm like, I don't know, it was just sort of like, this is beautiful. I love this. I've been thinking a lot about friendship. I like to listen to Simon Sinek sometimes in his A Bit of Optimism podcast, and Yogananda. They talk a lot about the importance of friendship. That Simon Sinek, the longest romantic relationship he's been in has been 3 years. And he said, people treat me like I'm a failure. He said, but I'm only willing to be in that type of relationship if it's the right person. But I have extraordinary friends, and I have such a rich and full life. And he talks about his friendships and how he shows up for his friends and how they show up for him. And Yogananda talks so much about this power of spiritual friendship. And I thought, we don't look at how important we might, but culturally, the spiritual connections that we develop in a church, that those friendships are lifelong, can be. When Jack and I were up for Julian's graduation, Julian took us to a lighthouse, not surprisingly, called the Browns Lighthouse. And the lighthouse was cool, but they also had this really cute little cottage, and that totally entranced me because they had a little plaque on the cottage, and they were talking about like different military people would have lunch there, and then people would come and it was a beautiful house, but people would come there for lunch, and then they did a summer clam bake. It became a place of community, and then they had the lighthouse. And I was contemplating it because the lighthouse that they had needed a light keeper. But as technology advanced, light keepers became obsolete. You didn't need light keepers anymore. So now this is a freestanding lighthouse building, and we're seeing this all over, all those different lighthouses, and the beautiful sort of soulful stories about the light keepers, the singular light keeper, or a couple like this who created community. But they are obsolete. And I thought, well, that's so much what we're seeing in life today. As AI is coming on board, we don't need those personal things. We don't need other people as much because there's so much we can do on our own. If you want to be inspired, if you're looking for inspiration, spiritual inspiration or any inspiration, you can get on the internet 24/7 and you are going to see some amazing and extraordinary talks all the time. I mean, there's just so much. There's just so much out there that if what you're longing for is spiritual inspiration, it's at your fingertips 24 hours, 7 days a week. So then the need for a spiritual community, in what also got me thinking about this was reading the Bhagavad Gita. We've been going, for those of you who haven't been here, we've been going through the Bhagavad Gita, and I was reading it for few chapters for this week because I was trying to capture something that wasn't so about just yourself. And I going through it, and everything was about knowing God, which is great because this is the great teaching. It's the teaching of all the mystics that everything you need to wake up to the divine is within you. And the more you start doing this inner work, you start exploding into this cosmic energy. And that's the Lighthouse title of our community was inspired by this. You're going through the energy bodies, the different chakras, and as you're working up these wheels and then you open up to the cosmic consciousness, and then you come back down, back to earth. But the constant work is, and especially so Yogananda is one of my main teachers, is constantly pulling your energy up, going up the stairs of the lighthouse. You always come down, but the important part is moving up into the light, into that infinite. They could talk of the third eye. It opens up to cosmic consciousness. And so so everything in the Gita is about that, and all paths lead to this cosmic consciousness. And so and we'll talk about it in the future, the different ways to get up there, but they're just different ways to climb up the staircase. But it's always on our own. I'm like, where's the other people? And I recognize in the past, it was assumed. There was no internet. If you wanted some spiritual teaching, if you wanted help, if you wanted inspiration, you went to a community to be around other people, to be around teachers, to be introduced to books that you may never have heard of. Everything is out on the internet. You don't need to come to a church anymore for information. If you want books, now there's podcasts, there's audio, but there's so much out there. Inundated with so much information, there's only really one reason to come to a spiritual community. Y'all know what it is? The music. There's there's music online too, but I will talk about that. We come for each other. Because the world is becoming so self-efficient. There's people working remotely, and AI is causing all sorts of, and they're saying we're not going to even recognize where in 5 years what we are about jobs, and it's changing everything, and it's changing fast. But the need for one another isn't changing. That every study, by far, the most important healing process is the connection with other people, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, it's other people. I remember when I was in ministerial school way back in the 90s, I'm just saying this before all this stuff, and the professor, he had been a doctor for 30 years, and he was teaching people to follow their inner guidance and how to do that. It was a great class, one of my all-time favorite classes. And one of the things that he pointed to, and then I started research, it was actually true that with the research, this totally surprised me, more than anything you can do for your health, eating, exercise, smoking, all that stuff that we hear, it's so important, and you hear about it all the time. But it was like that mattered this much, social connection mattered this much. It was astronomical, and I'm like, how come I never heard about this? That having a social community, having connections with other people is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. And so even in spirituality, so we have it out there in our work life, but even in spirituality, we can become so self-sufficient. And I'm someone, and I say that, maybe that's why it's hit me, because I've spent a lot of time doing stuff on my own. I've been sort of going on my own little journey all the time. And I have learned over time how much I need other people. I cannot do this on my own. Bye. We love you. No, go. Yeah, no, I love it. I was amazed they were here. So that's a perfect example. So we need other people to celebrate with. That's why yesterday was so wonderful. They could have gotten married in a private little ceremony with just their family, but they invited everybody. They invited our community. They have friends for 40 years, both of them. So all their friends, this community, those were old friends. They have new friends. Everyone was welcome, and that's what made yesterday so enormously wonderful. Celebration. You can't do that sitting alone in your room. You can't have that feeling. If you have dreams that you want to go to, you can work on your dreams by yourself, but it always helps to have other people supporting you, loving you, cheering you on, inspiring you, people that you know who get to know you. Mentorship doesn't work as a one-way street. If you are mentoring someone from a distance and you're sort of learning from their example, that's very different than a mentor who knows you, who's talking to you, where it's back and forth. And that's what happens in spiritual community, is we get this back and forth wonderful energy. And I was thinking about a cottage, being up that cottage, like the imagery of a cottage. It's warm, it's cozy. It can quiet you down because, it was just all the imagery was like, this is so perfect for what's happening in our time, not just with AI, but what's happening politically, what's happening with our environment. It's so overwhelming. And they're talking about how fast change is coming. It's like we're having to deal with so much change constantly, month to month. It's amazing how much is happening in just a short span, so different than 50 years ago. So to come to a place with people who are here to see who you really are as a divine presence of pure spirit, to hold that in a very peaceful, stable place, to say, here, come pull up a chair to the warmth of our collective consciousness. Come feel embraced and enveloped in unconditional love. We see you. We feel you. We care about you. We're here with you. We walk this journey with you. You're not alone. What a gift that it gives all of us. One of the things I've discovered about being in person versus online, because sometimes I do a lot of classes online and then I see people, and there's another element. There's two elements that I think it highlights. And one goes to the music comment. There's just more energy. When I'm online, I can be with people, but it doesn't have, we love you online. I'm trying to put that down. I'm just saying that when you come, that you can feel the energy, because we're energy bodies. And when you're next to each other, and that's very exciting. And so music is another thing. I remember when we were in COVID and Jack would be doing music every Sunday, and I remember thinking, oh, they're hearing him through Zoom, but I'm hearing him live. And I feel like, oh, I wish everyone could feel this live. And I think of Yogananda talking about we are energy bodies, and he said most of us cannot even begin to contain the energy that God is. It's so vast. And there's a moment in the Gita where Krishna reveals himself, and Arjuna's like, no, it's too much because it's so huge. But when we're with each other, we can start to feel it in our body. And I think that's one reason why community, you get almost used to not being around community, so we have to choose community. That's really what I'm trying to say here. Is it's not, I think previously, before all the technology, it was an assumption. Of course you're going to have community. You couldn't do these things but we can do so much by ourselves now. It has to be more of a conscious choice. And we're more vulnerable. Because when you start to feel energy, you feel all types of energy. And you can feel, there's things that you can feel that if I'm online, sometimes I can't totally feel what somebody's feeling. I can't read their body language. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I can't totally, but I'm in person, I can feel it. And they can feel me. I'm not as protected. And so it becomes, I feel, being in a spiritual community is almost like becoming more human, like really embracing our humanity and saying, oh, we're human. And for those of you online, I invite you to find places, maybe not on a Sunday morning, but to connect person to person, flesh to flesh, and to feel that vibrational frequency that you can't get through a computer, that you can't get through AI, that we can only get from one another, and it might feel more vulnerable, and you might feel a little bit more naked, and you might feel the energy, and everything might be soft. But here's the other beautiful part about being part of a spiritual community. It's a cottage, but it's not a cottage just in a human world. It's a cottage animated by the infinite, eternal light of God. This morning as I was just being with this vibration of the lighthouse and the cottage, without me, I kept focusing on the cottage, and what kept coming in my mind's eye was the light from the lighthouse that I saw, just how brilliant that light is, and that light is here all of the time. So when you're coming to a community, it's not just human to human interaction. It's spirit moving through all of us, this great energy, this great light of love, this great light of peace, this great light of healing, because there's always healing in the human world. There's always healing to be done. And yet that steady, the lighthouse, remember, right? The lighthouse isn't over here and then over here and over. It's steady, it's consistent, and we're all tapping into that same light. We're not the source of that light, but we are connected. That light is moving through us, and that's why we do our individual work. So when we come together, we become a steady, stable presence for ourselves and for each other. This power and this presence of pure light. I think part of what inspired the talk today was, well, there's two things. As you know, Jack has a health issue, and so I'm more aware of how valuable support is. But it's the place from which that support comes. And what I have to tell you, there was just this moment. Because, Jack has his life, I have my life, so sometimes I hear him say things that he was talking to, that I just delights me, and he doesn't say it to me, and maybe he assumes I know, but it's just lovely to hear. He was talking to his friend in Philadelphia, telling him about his health issues, and he said, oh yeah, but you know what? I have this spiritual community, and they got me in prayer, and yes, Friday night I heard from his musical community, just the people who are holding him in light and in prayer, and he knows it. And that changes everything. That he's just leaning. He doesn't talk about it. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. It doesn't like it's not something he's going to go. You don't need we don't. There's a lot of stories. Every story's different. But the thing he knows, and he knows that he knows, is that you all have him. And he knows that. And he's leaning into it. And I didn't know how much he was leaning into it till I heard him talking to his friend. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. He knows where that healing light is. And that's for everybody here. Everyone has stuff. Everyone has challenges. To have people holding that light for you, that steady light that isn't full of, like, is there love? Is there this Yes. And it's right here and it's right now. Is there wholeness? Yes. And it's right here and it's right now. Is there peace? Yes. And it's right here and it's right now. That's the beauty of community and support. And so I wanted to share that with you and thank you for the support you've given us. And we're going to continue. I've discovered that there's many different types of cancers and treatments and blah, blah, blah. So we're really working with our doctors. And what we're leaning into is not the medical piece, but it's a spiritual piece, because as we know, spirit comes first. Spirit is the source of we go through. So we do that for one another. You're doing that for one another, right? This is spiritual community. Because I want to tell you the other piece that inspired, that got me thinking along this line. You might find it's a little weird, but this community is going through a change too, right? Jack's leaving a little bit earlier than expected because of diagnosis, and I'm leaving at the end of July. We have people who are here. I see Cher's heading up our transition team, who are going to be helping the community. But we have to be clear that the community is the thing. And so in thinking about community, that it's a choice. And this community has to make that choice to say, this is important. This community is important. And because I have been, the very first New Thought community I went to, they didn't have a minister. They were going through the candidating process. So I was hearing different speakers. I didn't care. I liked it all because I was going for the community. I was just going to be in the energy. My first CSL church was different. My first 2 classes, there was no minister. I was being taught by practitioners. I still showed up for classes. I'm like, they said, we don't have a minister. I don't care. Let's go to classes, because this community is what's important. And so what I'm asking you to really ask of yourself is, how important is this spiritual community to you? How invested are you to show up? Because it requires showing up to services, to classes, to the yard sale, to movie night. There's things happening. And so it's only going to happen, not because none of that is dependent on who's the spiritual leader. It's dependent on you and how important spiritual connection is. I know you all have many friends, but how much do you want to be committed to your own spiritual growth? Because a community that isn't growing and evolving, if you're not growing and evolving spiritually, the community can't grow. So that's why we continue classes. Classes are going to continue because I need to grow, you need to grow. We all need to keep growing. That's the essence of life. The beauty, the joy, the freedom is to become more and more of that through our classes and through the connection with one another. And I'm just going to tell you a little funny, and really, this sounds silly. I'm just a little, I don't know how you're going to receive this, but so one of the things I've always liked to do, I candidated for my first church, and so I went through the whole process, and it sounds like they do very much a similar process. I haven't candidated since then, but I'm always interested. So whenever they put up on the ministers have their own little special thing, and they'll say, here's the places that have open pulpits. Not that we're doing that, the community's not ready for that. But just when I start hearing about, their minister's gone, and they're looking, I will watch a service. I'll go check out their website. I'll see, who is this community? I can't tell you how many communities I've checked out. For no reason, I have no desire I'm not looking for myself, I'm just curious. And so as ministers are hearing about the shift in this community, I guarantee you already there's been some ministers who've been checking us out. So when we come on Sunday, I'm just letting you know, there are people like, who is this community? As they're looking at the videos or looking at our website, who is this community? And I'm saying that because transition is an uncomfortable thing. You know we're leaving, so there's a feeling of it coming to an end, and people react differently to that. But the community isn't ending. And your presence and your commitment and your wanting to show up and participate is as important now as it's ever been. Because who you are is what can have everything to do with who you become. We create not from lack. We create from a fullness of what already exists, to be grateful for what already exists at this community. We have an extraordinary people in leadership. We have an extraordinary prayer team. We're developing our music team. All these things are happening, and it's happening because of you. You showing up. And I want to say one last thing about this, because I think it's really important. When I was at Oakland Center, I was there for about 2 years, and I would speak on every Sundays, every once in a while I'd speak on a Sunday morning service. Every time I spoke, it was when there was about 400 people there, we had 2 services, I would get standing ovations. I spoke several times at San Jose when I would get standing ovations. About 400 people, lots of people standing up high. It's a totally different way of speaking, high energy, da-da-da. I've also spoken in small communities. The thing that amazed me when the Lighthouse started is it was a small community, but the energy was so high. And I'm like, wow, the energy here is the exact same energy that's there. So anything that you have in your mind that says, well, we don't have the people. God is the energy. Let's be very clear. There's one energy, and it is infinite right now. There's no more. You can't add on to God's energy. That's impossible. There's not God and, right? There's only this divine infinite energy, and that infinite energy you get to be a vehicle of. So rather than looking at, well, we're a small community or we don't, the finance, no. We are an infinite community. We've always been an infinite community. And to stand in that, and to when you walk into service saying, I am a representative of the infinite light of pure spirit, and I'm going to show up big, I'm going to show up fully. That when you're sitting there, you're not just sitting there, you're radiating energy. And anyone who's ever spoken knows that the people in the community are radiating energy to you. And so you get to participate every Sunday service, come in, and you're not here just sort of going, show me what you got. That's not the energy. I know it's going to be great because I'm bringing the greatness. Every one of you, I am bringing the light. I am bringing the joy. I am bringing the healing energy. That's the call. Not just to show up to a spiritual community to get something, but everything is about what you're giving as a spiritual community. That cottage is what keeps the spiritual lighthouse going. Because we live on earth. We are human beings that need one another. And over and over and over, you can have all of these spiritual teachings, but if you don't have the community that's showing up and saying, we are here to nurture that infinite light in this community, you are needed. You are needed now more than ever. There's so much discontent and uncertainty and fear and blah, blah, blah out in the world. But you get to come and you get to anchor oneness here. And you get to be a powerhouse of healing light every single Sunday, and every event that you show up to, yard sale, bring your light, bring your joy, bring the energy, movie night, bring your light, bring your energy. This is your community. And cottages, it's collective. You think of a cottage, you think of everyone together creating, right? That cottage, that warm, people sitting around the fire, that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here, and it's magnificent. And I know this Lighthouse community is just at the beginning of an extraordinary gift to this planet. We've just begun. You've just begun. It just takes that wonderful, life-giving yes. Let's pray. God bless Jack. So we just give thanks again for this oneness that is everything. It is the Alpha and the Omega and everything in between. It's beyond anything we could ever imagine. And those moments when that power of the consciousness of oneness hits us, what a gift. And today I celebrate the power and the presence of this one life and this one power as each and every individual is participating here in person, online, in this healing light and energy and vibration. Yes, yes, yes. That the divine presence, the cosmic consciousness, as every mystic teaches, is fully within each and every one of us. There's nothing that we could add on to. We just continue to awaken and awaken and awaken and awaken and awaken to feel the power of the light and the joy and the freedom and the abundance and the beauty and the harmony all flowing through and as every atom and cell of our body, every atom and cell of our beautiful, radiant, God-ordained physical vehicle. It irradiates and pulsates through all of our emotions, all the full spectrum of the emotions, the difficult emotions and the beautiful high emotions. It's all of it. The challenging body and the beautiful body, all of it. Every thought that we have, the whole kit and caboodle, it's everything that we are. Everything that we are. It is impossible for any part of us to ever step outside of this oneness. It's impossible for us to be anything other than aligned with this one power, this one presence, this one power, one presence, where nothing is against us and everything is for us. And we let go of our judgments of what that looks like, and we just say yes to its light, its power, its beauty, its harmony, and flowing through this beautiful Lighthouse community. I give a special blessing this beautiful day to this community, to its radiance, to its grace, to its love, its kindness, its compassion, and its infinite power. Its infinite power to heal, to reveal, to express the kingdom, queendom of pure spirit throughout all of our lives. For the love and the support that each person gives one another, for seeing the truth in each other as we walk this journey with each other. We end with that which what our beautiful Ram Dass says, we are all just walking each other home. For the beauty of light, I just say thank you, God. I release this word now and I let it be, as we say together, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I walk in God in all